Hey guys, Footy Focus Podcast, episode 30. So we're recording on 6th of January 2021, first episode of the new year. I am Shanaka and joined as always by Shahan.
Hi guys, I know my voice sounds a little bit lower than Shanaka's when we record this, so I'll try to speak a bit louder. But yeah, good to be here, and we're doing Sydney and West Coast today, so we'll get into that in a bit. Any news, just quickly, we want to talk about?
Yeah, so probably remiss of us not to mention the Dimma news. No, we won't obviously get into the specifics of, relationship, marriage and all that, but he's obviously in a relationship with a staff member, and that's come to light in the last few days, and I think there's been a lot of talk on Big Footy and all the other forums that I guess led to the media leaking it, and the Tigers making a statement. So I'm not too sure. I think it might have an effect on the club, because you've seen the Cotchins.
Yeah, and Buckley, I suppose. I don't know if it had an effect on him, but Collingwood had a poor year and he had a relationship breakdown. So it's probably not our place to go into the relationship stuff, but it'll just be interesting to see how Tigers deal with it. But you'd think they're professional enough to move on? Yeah,
I think the Tigers they won 3 of the last 4. They've had, the sack. I think Callum Jones as well last year got sent home from the hub. They've had a lot of adversity the last few years, but they've still managed to win. So probably time will tell what effect it will have, but I don't think the hubs, and this is a coincidence. I think there's probably some kind of relation to it.
Yeah, maybe, yeah. So I think the Tigers hierarchy would let this one go through to the keeper, as they say.
Yeah. I don't think there's any danger of Dimma losing his job. I think he's entrenched as the coach anyway.
Yeah, but on lighter news, the players got back to the pre-season today, 6th of Jan.
It's pre-season, so it's already kicked off.
Yeah, so Buddy's back, and so a bit of the Kangaroo boys, they're back. Jai Simpkin looking good, and a couple of the reports said Luke McDonald, and even guys like Stevenson and Curtis Taylor. So it's encouraging for Roos supporters. What about Port?
Yeah, I haven't heard too much. I know I think there's some restrictions, governing the number of players that can train together. I think there's still that. So I'm not sure whether that's happening in Melbourne as well. Maybe the full list can't train together. I'm not too sure.
That's a good point. Yeah. That's probably why when I saw the videos, they were in groups and they had different coloured bibs on. So, but it's exciting. Footy's around the corner. I think there's kicks off on the 18th of February.
Yeah, it's close, isn't it? 7 weeks away.
And Women's League kicks off in a couple of weeks, or 3 weeks, I think. So
footy back on the weekends. So you want to move on to the Sydney Swans review for the year. So how did you find their year?
Yeah, so we'll touch on our usual stuff: what worked, what failed, who deserves a pay rise, who needs a big 2021, and some of the list changes.
Yeah, they're now best 22 as well.
And a grade, So, summary, I think they had a good year. They finished 16th on the ladder, 5 wins, 12 losses, percentage of 82.6. And their most impressive win was probably the one towards the end of the season against a Demons who had to win. But Sydney sort of, I think it rained a bit that night, potentially.
Yeah, they jumped them early that night.
Yeah, and they got over the line by 21 points. But you would agree they were competitive most year?
Yeah, I think you've got a good study. 5 losses under 8 points, including to the Tigers and Cats who played off in the grand final. So, I thought they didn't get smashed at all from my memory. So,
so that's why I think a lot of commentators are bullish on their chances this coming year to move up the ladder from 16th. Did you want to say what worked?
Yeah, for me, I thought we'll touch on their crop of youngsters. If you look at their top 10, the B&F, 5 of them are 24 youngest. You've got Papley, Mills, Rowbottom, Dawson and Florence. So I think their recruiting has been really good. I think that'll bear some fruit in the years to come.
Yeah, it's very rare, isn't it, for especially any team to have that many young players finishing that high. Probably tells you a little bit that their senior players were injured a bit.
So how about you? What did you...
Good form towards the back end of the season. I think they were one of few teams that sort of showed some positive signs, whereas couple of the Melbourne-based teams sort of dropped a little bit. Sydney as well as Adelaide were able to put on some wins. And yeah, just their brand of footy, I thought it was a lot more attractive than previous seasons. Yeah, not as boring, and they were a bit more exciting.
Yeah, I think it's great for the culture. A lot of teams fell away when finals were out of possibility, but yeah, they continue to show up week after week.
Yeah, that exciting style, I think it comes down to players like you mentioned, like Papley and Rowbottom, even Florent and Dawson.
So I guess what failed, we touched on Buddy, but
yeah, one of the big things, I think, their lack of firepower. So did you feel it was more Buddy or bust for them?
Yeah, I think that's probably been the case since that 9-year deal came into play. I know Tippett was there for a couple of years, but I think it's always been, Buddy's not there. I think he's only played 10 games the last 2 seasons. There's still 2 years left on that monster 9-year deal.
Yeah, so him missing, he didn't play any games this season.
No, 0, yeah.
So Papley sort of stood up to be that, almost that key forward, but like a short version, kicking 26 goals. But the next best was Will Hayward with only 10.
Yeah.
So that's concerning.
It's a big drop away, and you'll touch on Sam Reid later, but only 10 games for 5 goals from him, and you'd like to think he would step up a bit more. He's experienced enough.
Mm-hmm. And Heaney just with the 6 games, so he was probably going to play that key forward position before he got injured, especially as McCartin went down back.
Yeah, and then we got Nick Baker. He struggled a little bit. I think he's probably playing more up the ground now. I think they're trying to turn him into a winger, potentially.
Yeah, he got dropped, and I don't know, it might come down to his body shape and sides. Because even though he's tall, he's not yet built like a key forward.
Yeah. Is any other good prospects key forward-wise on the list?
Yeah, Hayden McLean was the other one that looked good. So he stepped up a bit. He kicked 5 goals in his 6 games. So just still 22 years old and 197 centimetre Victorian, I'm pretty sure. So
yeah, it takes a good pack mark too.
Yeah, so they'd want him to develop and continue.
So move on to who deserves a pay rise.
Yeah, I've got James Rowbottom. So you know whose nephew this is? So colourful character.
Brian Taylor.
Yeah.
Is that like the sister's son?
I'm not too sure, but
maybe it's a cousin.
It's definitely his nephew. He was an interesting sort of draft selection. So when he was picked in 2018, he was part of that criticised move where Sydney parked their 2nd round pick before the Blakey bid came.
Yeah.
And then they traded it back with West Coast. So they did at the time, I suppose it was sort of cheeky and still within the rules. But then the AFL moved to block that.
Yeah, so they made use of it while the loophole was still there.
Yeah, so they did a good job to pick up Rowbottom. So he finished 7th in the Bob Skilton medal. So 16 games, and he was also awarded the most improved player as well.
Yeah, so he's playing obviously inside mid, isn't he?
Yeah, inside. He's a tough inside mid. Not super flashy, but good endurance based. And he's I'll describe him as sort of a neat player.
Yeah.
Have you seen him play a bit?
Yeah, I've seen him more in and under.
Yeah.
Not really like a Florent or a Dawson that breaks away from the contest. But
yeah, he has a bit of speed, but around the stoppages especially. But he's more of that sort of get the ball out sort of type player. But not too bad overhead, and I think he was impressive in the games I saw.
Yeah, you got Kennedy nearing the end too. I think Kennedy's 33 now, so maybe he's a replacement.
Yeah,
in years to come.
Yeah, the Kennedy Parkers. Jack's gone, so
yeah.
Potentially that Jack role because he's probably a similar build to Jack, whereas the other two, a little bit taller. How about you?
Yeah, I think Callum Mills for me. So he's only 23 years old. Picked 3 in the 2015 draft. I think Mills and Heaney are the highly touted academy selection. So he's 9th in intercepts per game. Thought he really stepped up in the last few rounds, playing that loose role down back. He's a good size at 189 too, just to play that floating intercept defender role. And I think it's probably the most important position in the modern game, just to have that loose that can,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think he was just going. I think he had a breakout year this year.
Yeah.
But prior to this year, I think he was just starting to stagnate a bit.
Yeah.
He did win the Rising Star, didn't he?
Yeah, he won it in might have been 2014 when they made the grand final.
It would have been
2016, 2016. Yeah, they played off against the Bulldogs in that grand final. So You mentioned before Heaney. I think Heaney had a great start, but yeah, obviously got injured, so maybe Heaney would have matched his year as well.
Yeah, so Cal might move into the midfield later, but yeah, he's definitely that intercepting defender, and he's doing a good job. So might go into who needs a big 2021, and you want to kick us off?
Yeah, so for me, it's Callum Sinclair. So I think he's been a serviceable ruckman so far, and there's not much depth on the list. Naismith had an ACL. They traded out Ali, who played as that backup ruck, and they've only got Tom Hickey, who's really been a journeyman, as the backup. So if Sinclair can stand tall, and pretty much break even, doesn't really need to dominate most weeks, but if he can break even against the Grundys of the world, then I think Sydney will do really well.
Yes, and they've delisted Noel, I think, a couple of ruckmen. So is Naismith back, or is he? Yeah,
he was back. I think he did his ACL early on, maybe the first game back or the second game back. Just been real unlucky. So not much else on the list. How about for you?
Yeah, another tall player like we mentioned before, Sam Reid would be the one. So I think he's close to 30 or 30.
Yeah.
Don't quote me, but he becomes an unrestricted free agent at the end of next year. So if he has another poor year, you'd think he might walk away and Sydney might not match. But he'd want to sort of show something if he wants to get another contract at the Swans, especially if Buddy doesn't fire, because Buddy's still contracted for an extra year.
After
that. Do you think his position might be dependent on if they decide to blood some young key position players?
Yeah, we've obviously got one of the number one pick, or the first round pick was Logan McDonald. You'd probably think he probably takes Sam Reid's place. I don't think Sam Reid's held down a spot down back. I think they're pretty deep down back with McCartin going back there. So not sure if there's a place for him, even as a backup ruck potential. I mean, he's got all the attributes, but just hasn't probably had a disappointing career to date as well.
Yeah, I'd like to see him play back a bit, because he can play a bit of both.
Yeah.
Especially, with no Aaliyah, and Tom McCartin's not super tall. I think they only have, they do have another tall defender. What's his name?
Melican.
Yeah, so he's that key position height. So you might see Sam Reid playing a bit more defence.
Yeah, even Rampy's undersized, playing as a key back as well.
Yeah, and I'd want to see Heaney continue to play well as well next year. So I think it's a bit of a big year, because if he's going to become a superstar, he'd need to be more consistent. And
100%.
do what he was doing in those first 5 or 6 games this year.
Yeah, so we'll go through the key ins and outs. So we'd mentioned Aaliyah, Noel, Reynolds and Royals. I don't really know much about them. Riley Stoddard and Jack Mabum.
Yeah, I don't know much about them. Stoddard was the first round pick, I think, or second, or an early-ish pick for them. So he couldn't develop as that running halfback.
And then, the on the in was, Tom Hickey. Touch on the best 22, but I'm not sure if he's in that at the moment.
Yeah, and also the other key out was Elijah Taylor.
Oh, yes. So, good point there. So he was, pick 36 in the 2019 draft. Maybe not a troubled background. I think there was concerns about why he dropped so low, because I think he probably is a top 10, top 20 talent. Played 4 games, stood down during the season for smuggling his partner into the WA hub. And then, stood down later. He, got arrested and pled guilty to some domestic violence charges.
Yeah, so he's a mercurial type forward, so it's unfortunate, what's happened off field, but I think he's looking to move back to, not back to Victoria, but
Western Australia.
He is Western Australian, but I thought I read he wanted to move to Victoria to maybe play at a lower league to just to try to get back into the AFL system, because he's no doubt has talent to be taken in the second round.
Yeah, 100%.
So hopefully he gets a second opportunity.
Yeah, so in terms of their recruits, so who do they pick up in the draft and rookie?
Yeah, do you want to kick us off with the pick and the name, and I might sort of chime in with some information.
Yep, so pick 4 was Logan McDonald.
Yeah, so key position forward, 196 centimetre. He's an athletic key forward as well, so that hard running, neat skills, can push up the ground.
Yeah.
He's been compared to Nick Rewalt, so Yeah, it's a pretty big.
Yeah. Shoes to fill.
Yeah, 21 goals in the 9 games for Perth seniors in the Waffle. So I think he comes in ready to play.
Yeah,
so,
100%. Yeah.
like you said, you'd think he'd get games from round 1.
Yeah, I think him. Yeah, and I think Denver Granger Barras as well. I think they're both playing round 1. He's with the Hawks, isn't he? So.
Yeah, his fellow, Western Australian.
And pick 5 was Braden Campbell. He was an academy prospect, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Yeah, so he got bid on quite early. Yeah, so I think it was the pick right after McDonald. So Hawks put the bid in for the 181 centimeter forward mid. So yeah, this guy's a gun in the game. In the game, I saw him. Yeah. So he won that best on ground medal in that under 16s, under 17s futures game. Yeah, explosive, penetrating kick, and just very dangerous and mercurial around goal.
Yeah, it's a big 32. Errol Gulden, another academy. He slipped a bit, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he didn't grow as much as he would have liked, or the Swans would have liked. So he's still 175 centimeters small mid forward. So, they say he's a remarkable reader of the play. So he did kick a couple of good goals in that game I watched, but he's probably suited to that small forward role at AFL level.
Okay. And rookie is Malaki Carruthers.
Yeah, I don't know much about him, but he's from the Sandful under 18s. So played for Sturt. So he averaged 23 disposals and he's that run and carry type defender. So probably won't play too much because it's only 72 kilos. So that's about your weight.
I think I weigh more than that. So light for him. So best 22. You want to read out what your best team is?
So from the back line, we've got Melican, Rampy, Lloyd. Halfbacks, Mills, Tom McCartin, Harry Cunningham. In the centre, on the wing, we've got Blakey, Parker in the centre, and Dawson on the other wing. Heaney, Franklin, Campbell. And in the pockets, Papley, Logan McDonald, and Haywood in the other pocket. Sinclair, Josh Kennedy, and James Rowbottom on the ball, and Dylan Stevens, Ollie Florent, Justin McInerney, who was another player that we should mention had a good end to the year.
Tour player. And
you snuck in Errol Gulden into that bench.
Yeah, just like the young crops. I prefer to play a youngster than we got George Hewett as an emergency.
Yeah, he's probably the next in line probably, and then Ryan Clark, Lewis Taylor, and Tom Hickey as that backup big man.
Yeah.
I'd like to see Will Gould play a bit more as well. So he was slipped a bit in his draft year, but he's that maybe third tall running defender, like a big bodied version.
Yeah, he was real ready, mate. I think he was in the premiership team and played key back the whole year in the Sandful.
Yeah, a lot of fans liked him in his draft year, so hopefully he can squeeze in, maybe push out Mills into the midfield and take a spot in the back line. But Hewitt's an interesting one.
Yeah. You think he's best 22, or you think he's a tagger, isn't he? So
this would be interesting if Swan supporters can let us know. Like, I think he would be, especially if there's an injury. Like, he'd easily get in there. He was top 3 in the best and fairest a couple of years ago. And he becomes a free agent at the end of this year. So, wouldn't mind him at North if we need more experienced, good players, role players, for our young list.
Yeah, 100%. So we'll move on to the grade for the end projection. So for me, it's a B, just given the improvement of the youngster. I know it's 16th place finish, but I just think with the improvement of the youngsters, they're probably ahead of some other teams, probably above them on the ladder. So I'd probably say 8 to 10 wins from them next year, and finals window opens up from 2022. You've only got Lloyd's 27, Parker 28, Rampy 30, Kennedy 32, and Buddy 33. So you'd probably say only Kennedy and Buddy wouldn't be there for more than a few years. I think there's probably a sneaky final chance if Buddy can stay on the park and reproduce anywhere sort close to his form that he's produced over 10 plus years.
Yeah, I think a lot would rely on Buddy playing more games than missing, because I think it's going to be too hard to rely on a McDonald to kick your 30, 35 goals in a debut year.
Yeah, so you'd want McDonald playing as that number 2, not having any pressure on him in his first year as a key forward in the league, and yet McCartin and Melican standing up down back, because McCartin I think switched late in the year. He played on Dixon and stood up really well. So if they can hold down their positions, they
have lost John Blakey as one of their coaches. So they're going to they have a bit more expectation, whereas maybe this last year they didn't. So sometimes it's a bit harder to back that up. So it'll be interesting to see if they're up to it. Because a bottom 4 finish would be a bit disappointing.
Yeah, you'd want them to be not final, but up there. 8 to 10 wins, I think, is a good expectation.
All right, we might move on to their rivals of the mid 2000s in West Coast. Do you want to kick us off with a little summary of the year?
Yeah, so it really depended on where they played. So 7 wins and 0 losses in Perth up until that finals loss against the Pies, and away they were 50-50, so 5 wins and 5 losses. So 5th after the home and away, and then finished 7th after that finals loss.
Yeah, so that just tells you they were really dependent on where they played, didn't it? So almost regardless of the opposition.
Yeah. Do you think there's any need in the midfield at all in terms of midfield mix?
Yeah, well, I thought their midfield sort of let them down a bit through the year, so maybe another inside bull would have been handy, because we'll get to it later, but they're just, for teams that supposedly has a good on-ball brigade, they came 12th in contested ball, and that's just not good enough for a contender.
Yeah, 100%. And ranked 15 for inside 50s, but they were efficient when they got in. Then that's probably due to the likes of Luke Ryan,
Kennedy and Darling, and having a potent forward line. Might talk a bit about what worked, and I thought, speaking of the forward line, the Oscar Allen and Jake Waterman combo worked really well. So they're both young, 21 for Allen, 22 for Waterman, and they just took the pressure off Kennedy and Darling when they had to, because those players, they didn't have the best year.
Yeah, I think Josh Kennedy, even in the premiership year, he's not really playing every single game, and he's having his quiet games as well. So you're right.
Yeah, and we all know Darling, he's a bit of a confidence player, so it's up and down. But Allen and Waterman, they took a big step forward, and they were pretty good aerially, good marking presence, and which helps guys like Ryan, Cripps, and Langdon this year.
Ground level. Yeah, so for me it was NicNat, so career best season, All-Australian ruck, and probably the most scoreboard impact of any non-forward, just with the centre clearance dominance. He's 30 now, and he's had a few injuries and things like that, so hopefully he can keep going for another few years. And I think the question for him is just whether he can replicate the form with 20-minute quarters, because I think that 16-minute quarters suited him down to a T, and he can play as that number 1 ruck the whole game.
Yeah, good point. So it'll be a tough year for him to back up the All-Australian, so you'd need that support from maybe Allen or someone can help him out.
Yeah, I think Allen was playing as that backup ruck just for a few minutes as a chop out.
What failed? We might talk a little bit about this. So I thought injuries to key players when it mattered, failed them. So do you want to roll off some players that missed?
Yeah, so Luke Shuey missed 5, Yo missed 7, Gov 6, Cripps 4, and that was due to a birth of a child, but still missed some games. And Hutchings and Waterman missed a few games also. Yeah,
so that means the likes of Gaff, Sheed, NicNat, Kelly, they all played between 16 and 17 games.
Yeah, at the age.
But after that, the depth sort of drops off a little bit.
So on paper, they're really good, aren't they? I mean, they've got
quality-wise,
Sheed and Redden as well to add to that. But you think they're probably better on paper than they are.
Yeah, I guess the type of players they were missing, like Yo, Shuey, they're more your inside bulls, whereas the guys that did play, the Gaff, Sheed, and Kelly, they're more your outside. So like what we were saying before, more contested types. Do you think they should have chased Crouch a bit harder? Because Crouch is that inside-outside player.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think they're probably backing in Shuey and Kelly and even Yo as well, who missed 7 games to stand up. Because I think, for me, I think Ryan, Archie, maybe even Jermaine Jones, just to, if not maybe full-time mid, but just some spurts in there, just for some variety. Because the top 6 have played pretty much full-time mid for, 4 or 5 years now.
Yeah, and I guess the cap pressure, they'll be one of the clubs that are close to their cap, yeah. I'd imagine. Moving on, we might go to who deserves a pay rise.
Yep, so me was Liam Ryan, so still only 24, 19 score involvements. Yeah, probably had his career best year by far. I think probably look for him to spend more time in the midfield, like I mentioned before. His tank's probably got to improve for that to happen. But yeah, just an elite ball user inside 450. One of the reasons for their disposal efficiency inside 50. He
did more than just being a high-flying moments player, didn't he? He was a bit more consistent.
Yeah, and I think he was top 10 in goal assists as well. So, yeah, it's not just him flying for mark. He's doing a lot more these days.
Yeah, and for mine, I had Liam Duggan. So I think, Duggan's a very underrated defender / role player. So he got pushed into the midfield a bit more, I think, this year. And plays a bit taller than he is. And when he does play in defence, he can read the ball quite well.
Yeah.
And he takes the game on it as well. So I think he's 5th position in the John Worsfold medal. Sort of, shows that internally he's rated.
Yeah.
Interesting to note as well, like NicNat, Gaff and Shepherd came top 3 in the Best and Fairest.
Yeah, like 3 guys that missed the flag.
Yeah. So he's also coming out of contract next year. So, so he's a Victorian. I think he's from Bacchus Marsh. So, he might want to come back home. So, they'd want to sign him up, I think, because he could be the player that sort of fills in, becomes that next depth player for in their midfield.
Yeah, he's a good age too. And special mention to Brad Shepherd as well. We mentioned before. Hopefully no longer underrated as well. I think you can see how much they missed him when he was injured.
All Australian, as well.
Yeah, so who needs a big 2021?
For me, I've got another first-round player in Dom Sheed. So I think he had an okay year, but I think he was a bit more consistent and could have offered a bit more. He failed to step up, I think.
Yeah, so I think he did step up in 2018 in their flag, and it wasn't just the goal he kicked. He did, step up a fair bit with Gaff being injured. But last couple of years probably stagnated. You would have thought.
Yeah, a little bit. I would have liked to see him sort of continue on and become like an absolute gun. Yeah. But he's more the outside player, so he's not going to win your hard ball as much. Yeah. But I think he can still become that 5th sort of gun mid. And he comes out of contract as well, and he's a free agent next year. So he's from Western Australia, so it's probably not a massive risk he'll leave, but you never know. So especially if the club dangles a big sort of contract. So
I
don't know, maybe like a Collingwood or Essendon might be one of those clubs to dangle that.
100%. Because like you said, he's well down in the pecking order, so he wouldn't be getting the big bucks that Kelly, Gaff, and Shuey are.
Yeah, and your one, speaking of Kelly?
Yeah, so Tim Kelly for me, so the price given up just dictates that. So I think it was 2 firsts and a couple of pick swaps. But should have had a more consistent year. He was 3rd in goal assists, but he was also 8th in turnovers in the comp, which is, not good enough for probably what him and Yo should be vying for that number 1 mid role in the team. And 26, he should be entering his peak, so hopefully can live up to that contract. I think there's 4 or 5 years left on that now, so you'd like a more consistent year from him.
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough year for a player that wanted to go home, and then you end up playing half your games in a different state. So I think, we'll see the best of him, I think, this coming year, given it's a normal season and he can settle down with his family in Perth.
Yeah, 100%. I think, you're right there. I think it's probably one of the players least suited to the hub, through no fault of his own as well. So key ins and outs. The outs, so Schofield retired, didn't he? Reid, Hamish Brayshaw was delisted. Also Francis Watson, Tracy, Mitch O'Neill, and Lewis Jetta as well was a bit of a surprise. A 200 gamer, played in the flag. He was a late delisting, so I'm not sure if they were looking to trade him or whether they just he was the last one out.
Had a bit of injuries as well, I think.
He's dropped a few times as well this year as well, so didn't have the greatest year.
And also they traded in Zach Langdon and Alex Witherton, so a couple of fringe players, you'd say, at their clubs can slot into their best 22.
Yeah, I think Witherton pickup was huge because, a couple of years ago he was number one rebounding defender, and then Birchall came in and took over his role. I think it was Archie as well, but Hearn's probably near in the end. So, just that ball user coming out of back 50, and it's a good pickup. And the ins for the draft, so we got pick 52, Luke Edwards.
So they didn't come into the draft until about, I think it was 11 p.m.
Yeah, just with the Tim Kelly trade. And
yeah, very late. We were joking about this with my West Coast supporting friend that he could wake up the next day to find out their trade. So it was, pick 52. I guess for Perth time, it would have been prime time when they made their pick.
That would have been 8 p.m, 3 hours.
Perfect. Luke Edwards, the son of Tyson Edwards, Crows legend. He's a medium defender, so 188 centimeters. Had a better 17th year than 18th. So
he slipped a bit, didn't he?
Yeah, because Cal Toomey had him in his top 10 or
prospects
something.
to watch. Yeah.
So, but Edwards, he comes with elite vision, clean hands, and a long and penetrating kick. Not super quick, so that might be not as good, but he's a bit more AFL ready than some other prospects. So I guess with a list in the window and challenging, this is the sort of pick that you'd be happy with. So he could potentially slot in and become a bit of depth. Yeah. Rather than picking like a raw, like a skinny key position player or something.
Yeah, so pick 57, Isaiah Winder.
Yeah, he's a medium. I guess he's a bit of a utility, like a bit of speed, a goal sense, and an indigenous boy with quick with pace.
2.87 seconds for the 20 metre. That's pretty handy.
Yeah, it's quick. Yeah, and someone's mentioned he plays a bit like I think Mick Ablett from the Fox Footy said he plays a bit like Charlie Kerner, which is interesting.
Okay,
yeah.
Good comparison.
Key position player Charlie Kerner.
Hopefully not. As unlucky with injury. So rookie was Zane True.
Yeah. So again, similar to Luke Edwards, True's another hardened midfielder, a 185 centimeter, one touch player, and a contested ball winner. So I think his weaknesses might be he's too contested. Maybe doesn't kick it as much. But again, a player who was touted as like an early pick, but he slipped to the rookie draft. So another player that can come in and play AFL because he's got the body to.
There's a bit of a trend here, isn't there? And then relisted rookie was Daniel Venables. He had the concussions last few years.
So they're giving him another year on the rookie list. So.
And Cal Toomey had some interesting stuff about their draft night.
Yeah, so I'd like to refer back to this article he wrote. So he was saying the Eagles were looking at the Tigers pick 20, which was up for grabs, and they offered a future second, which wasn't enough because it went to Geelong for a future first. Okay. But they were looking at O'Driscoll and Bailey Laurie for that sort of pick, if they did get it. So, O'Driscoll, another sort of hardened player, and Laurie, a smaller midfielder.
Okay. So I go through the best 22. So backline was Liam Duggan, Tom Barras, Brad Shepherd. Halfbacks, Shannon Hearn, Gov, and Alex Witherton. Wingers, Dom Sheed, Andrew Gaff with Tim Kelly in the centre. Half forward line, Jamie Cripps, Jack Darling and Jake Waterman. Forward line, Oscar Allen, Josh Kennedy and Liam Ryan. Rucks, NicNat, Luke Shuey, Elliot Yeo. And then on the bench, you've got Jackson Nelson, Tom Cole, Jack Redden, Jared Cameron. Emergencies, Jared Brander, Ben Rotham, isn't it? Jermaine Jones.
No, it's not Ben, but don't worry.
Jack Petrocelli and Zach Langdon. So I think interchange and emergency, I think you can pretty much, apart from Jack Redden and Tom Cole, maybe you can probably interchange any one of those. There's not really
Yeah.
a best 22. It's probably a best 26, 27.
So the starting 18 reads like a premiership winning team. It just gets a bit hard when you get down to their last 4 players.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's really tricky. I'd like to hear what West Coast supporters know, but we had those guys. So do you reckon Cameron gets a game ahead of Petruccelli or Langdon?
Yeah, I mean, none of those have really. I mean, Zach Dunn's obviously new, but Petruccelli and Cameron really haven't cemented their spot. I'd probably say there's only a spot for one of them. So you'd want one of them to just have a big year and step up, because they're obviously missing Rioli as well after the drug suspension.
Yeah, and Venables, if he gets his body right, he could slot in there as well, because he was a premiership player, wasn't he?
100%. And you mentioned Brad Coates as well. You reckon there's any other names they're looking at in the next few years?
Well, local boy Patrick Cripps is a free agent.
Yeah.
So again, with the cap issue, I don't think they can fit him in, but he'd be perfect.
Yeah, I mean, there's talk of that, but obviously Hearn and Kennedy are probably the next ones off the books, and you probably think they're on big money. So potentially there might be some money open up for Cripps, but I'd probably say Cripps stays. I think he's just too loyal to the Blues, and he's captain now as well. So
yeah, it's interesting you mentioned Kennedy, because this could be his last year. So yeah, that'll definitely open up some cap space. But yeah, that's a good list, and you should be aiming to finish top 4 and winning that premiership. Well, you've given up a lot of draft. Yeah,
draft capital, exactly.
And do you want to talk about the grade and projection to wrap this off?
Yeah, so I know that I think 7th. I'd go D for me, so I can't give them a pass mark just based on the quality of the list and a 7th place finish. They must be top 4 again. You'd probably like them to get a home final just to ram home the home ground advantage. Yeah, like I said, on the Kennedy and Hearn are probably in their last season or two, both at 33. Yeah, need Allen and Waterman to keep trending upwards. Potentially Brander to push for a best 22 spot to keep the pressure on Barras. Brander's highly rated. I think Geelong were asking for him with the Tim Kelly trade, but he was non-negotiable as part of that.
Yeah, no, I agree. And they're in a position where they should strike. The list hasn't changed too much. I think get some of those injured players back. Hope for a bit of luck, especially towards the sort of pointy end of the season. And hopefully guys like Witherton and Langdon contribute. Yeah,
and even, like we said before, Brander, Jermaine Jones, Petruccelli and Cameron. If a few of those can stand up, you've got a decent best 22 instead of, like you said, a best 18 with a few remainder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think that'll just about do us. So any feedback, any constructive or
constructive, that's fine too. You can take it.
Yeah, so it's been good doing a wrap of these two clubs. So thanks for listening.
We'll catch you next week.